Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Atlanta Sports Podcast. Atlanta Sports Podcast. Uh, I ain't done this in a week, so I'm kind of rusty at it. So we gotta give me some time to get back into it. But I got another clipboard worth of stuff to talk about. One thing that's not on here because I made this clipboard yesterday afternoon, right? I made this whole plan yesterday afternoon, right? And one thing that happened yet last night, Trae Young snubbed again from the All Star game. Can we stop pushing the narrative that Trae Young's not good enough? If you're the All Star game is for the fans, and if you're going to have a fan event like the Pro Bowl or the All Star game, fan voting has to go into account in that. And when you're second in the East in voting for guards, that has to mean something. And it seems like this season it just didn't mean anything because Trae Young snubbed. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I'm not gonna talk about it a lot because oh man. But we're gonna talk about who will be coaching the Atlanta Falcons in 2024. We know the Falcons hired Raheem Morris a couple of weeks ago. Right. By the way, if you guys want to watch it, the introductory press conference for Raheem is Monday at 2. So I'm sorry, Miss Thompson, but I'm watching that last 10 minutes of class. I don't care. Um, yeah, who's coaching for the Falcons in 2024? We know Falcons hired Raheem Morris this past week. They've gone out and they've acquired Zach Robinson. He was a quarterback in the league for 4 teams. He played on the Patriots, the Seahawks, the Lions, and the Bengals. And then he worked his way up the coaching ranks in LA with the Rams. He was the assistant QB coach in 2019, wide receiver coach in 2020, back to assistant QB coach in 2021. And then he was the pass game coordinator for the Rams the last 2 years, as well as being the QB coach. That means that he oversaw Matthew Stafford and what he does and what he knows how to do. So I love that signing as like Falcons as like a Falcons fan. You know, you're starting to get the quarterback. You're wanting to go out and find the quarterback of your future, and to bring in a QB coach like Zach Robinson, who played QB in the league and who has worked with quarterbacks like Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. That's something I love to see. He also played alongside Brady for a little bit, and what would be shit a young Andy Dalton, but he was one of the top OC candidates off the board. So I'm loving that signing. But so we go young for your OC and your head coach. So you gotta go with someone who's been in it a long time for your DC, and that's where we go with Jimmy Lake. He's been coaching since 1999. I had to fit all of his stats on the bottom half of this paper. The bottom half is all Jimmy Lake. So he was a grad assistant and a secondary coach at Eastern Washington for 4 years. Then he went to be the DB coach for the Washington Redskins at the time. Then he went to be the DB coach at Montana State. Then the assistant DB coach with the Buccaneers. Then the DB coach on those 0-16 Lions teams. Then back to DB coach with the Buccaneers for 2 years. And then he went to being a passing coordinator and again a DB coach in Boise State. And then he kind of found his home. His home was Washington for about it was like 6 years. His DB coach and co-DC. Then he was the DC. Then became head coach of Washington. And then last year he was assistant head coach with the LA Rams. And now he finds himself back at the DC spot in Atlanta under his boy Raheem Morris. So that's who's coaching for us next year, man. You gonna have to we gotta get behind these guys. We that's the one thing I'm always gonna preach to Falcons fans. You have to get behind whoever your quarterback is, your coaches are, until they give you a reason not to be behind them anymore. Right? That's why I wasn't happy with us early on in the year when we were mad with Ritter because Ritter early on in the year looked good, but as he started to regress and get worse over the course of the season, that's when you're like, okay, something has to change. But now it's time to talk about the big games. The big games. I actually printed out the box scores for both of the championship games. We're gonna start with the AFC Championship game, right? Most people saying, "Oh, this was a rigged game," but I think that Baltimore didn't want it enough. I think Lamar wanted it, Zay Flowers wanted it, and everyone else really didn't want it. They didn't want it as much as they didn't want it as much as Kansas City wanted it. Kansas City wanted to come out and prove the world wrong, and I think Baltimore just happened to be there. When I know that the Ravens kind of rely on Lamar being that dual threat quarterback, when your quarterback is your leading rusher, that isn't good. Isn't good. Of course, you're gonna have quarterbacks who are going to do this from time to time, but it feels like Lamar is just continuously running for 100 yards a game. This time, the team itself didn't eclipse 100 rushing yards. That's a problem. So I don't think that Baltimore's ready yet. I think that give it another season, give Odell, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers one more year, and they're going to be serious, right? Because about Lamar hasn't been in these big situations like this. I mean, he has, but he hasn't been in this situation. You know, big drive. You got a big drive. You got should I got to do math here? You got about what 6:50 on the clock in the fourth quarter, and you throw the ball into triple coverage. You just can't have that happen. It's never gonna happen, and it's also not gonna happen if you go 3 for 11 on third downs. It's 27%. 27% on third downs. That's abysmal. Got to do better than that as a team. Granted, they were 2 for 2 on fourth, but yeah, that's all I got to say for Kansas City and Baltimore. So now we know Kansas City in the Super Bowl once again. We're gonna have to see Taylor Swift for one more week. But now we move on to San Francisco versus Detroit. This game I actually watched the entire second half of. I was out for the Ravens game. I caught the first quarter of it, but the 49ers Lions game, that was a shootout. This shouldn't even have been a shootout. Lions 3 touchdowns early, got out to the races. They were up what? They were up a lot at halftime. They were up a lot at halftime. They were up, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 24-7 at halftime. And then I had highlighted in green and in green and blue are green is touchdowns, blue is the field goals, and then in purple, well, pink, you have the turnovers, right? Look at the 49ers second half, right? Field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. And look at the Lions second half. That bold black line right about here, that's what it is. And turnover on downs, fumble, punt, turnover on downs. These lines are here to stay, right? And I think they're here to stay for the foreseeable future. That's going to be a team to beat in the NFC for years to come, and I'm fucking excited. We're finally gonna have good football in Detroit, and man, it's going to feel really, really good. But now we know who's going to Vegas. You have the Chiefs. They've looked off all season, right? They lost to Detroit in week 1. They lost to Denver in week 8. They lost to Vegas on Christmas. The game where the guy took the ball from the fan, right? But they've gotten hot at the right time. They beat Miami in the wild card. They beat Buffalo in the divisional, and they just beat Baltimore. So this team, they're getting hot at the right time. They're winning the close games. You're not going to win these games every single time. So to see them getting hot over time, that's something you definitely want to see if you're a Chiefs fan. But the 49ers, on the other hand, have looked hitting on all cylinders all season. Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, George Kittle. The defense has been outstanding. The only big loss was against the Ravens, and you don't got to worry about them anymore. Their team rankings, right? This is interesting, right? In points per game, the 49ers are third in the NFL in points per game. The Chiefs are 15. The difference is Kansas City has the second best defense in terms of how many points are we giving up. That's second best. The 49ers are the third best. So, granted, the offense is not putting up the numbers we're used to seeing this Kansas City Chiefs offense putting up, but the defense is making up for it by holding them to we're holding the other team to less and less points over time. Also, Chiefs are second in sacks, but they're 27th in turnovers. I think that's going to be big for this game. You would have to force Brock Purdy to turn the ball over, which the Chiefs have rarely done all season. You know, we saw them get the turnover last week, but how many more times you're not going to have Brock Purdy throw the ball into triple coverage with the game on the line? So that's definitely going to be big. But let's keep going. Let's talk about the team on my hat. If you don't know what this logo is, figure out fast. The Atlanta Vibe. Their home opener was on this Friday. Last night, as I'm recording this, that's when the home opener was. And man, it was so much fun, man. Went with my mom, my sister, and you know, you guys know Michael. Um, and man, it was a lot of fun. The place was rocking. 6,000 people. It was loud. It was a lot of fun. You got ATL chants started late in the match, and then you know Vibe took home the sweep at home. Yes, sweep. How sweep it is, man. How sweep it is. So, but one thing I talk about the Vibe, their in-game host, man, I'm not a fan. So what would happen is, right, you would have the announcer go like, it's a point for the Vibe, and then as he's saying that, you have the in-game host kind of trying to hype the crowd, like, which that's what you want from the in-game host. But you would want that during the timeout breaks that they have. Like if a team calls timeout, that's when you bring in the in-game host. You don't bring in the in-game host like in between points. That's one thing I think they need to improve. I think that overall was a really fun experience. Got the hat. I love their logo. Their logo fits so well with the vibe of the team. But yeah, but let's keep moving. I am moving. I am powering right through this. Powering right through this clipboard. Let's talk about the draft. I'm gonna do this every single week. We got another mock draft with the first pick. Well, with our first pick will be 8. Falcons. I did this like last Saturday. I have no clue what the rest of the draft order was, but at pick 8, Drake May. If Drake May falls to 8, I think Jane Daniels went early. If Drake May falls to 8, the Falcons better jump on that opportunity. I haven't seen him on tapes for a minute now. He looks like he can be the one. So yeah, Drake May goes 8, and then we trade up. We give Arizona our third, which I think that would have been the Jags pick. So we give them our third round pick, our second and our fourth next year for pick number 27, which we trade up and go get Brian Thomas, the receiver out of LSU. If you're gonna go out and get another quarterback, you gotta go out and get another weapon for him to throw at, right? I know we have Kyle Pitts, I know we have Drake London, I know we have Bijan, but that's not gonna be enough. We gotta get another receiver. We know that we're gonna need to have multiple receivers, right? Drake and KP and Bijan can't do it all. So what you go out and do? You go out and get a receiver who's gonna be pretty fucking solid in Brian Thomas. We saw him a little bit at LSU, and I think that he would do wonders in the system. I think. I just wrote down the draft. I didn't put down any notes. This is just the draft order I have. But with that, we finally get to our second round pick, which we take defensive lineman out of Miami, Leonard Taylor. I think Leonard Taylor is going to be the move in the second round if we don't get a cornerback at that point in time, only because we need another D lineman. I think that what really hurt us last year was losing Grady Jarrett, not having him in the locker room or him on the field. So I think that if you bring in another defensive lineman like a Leonard Taylor, you have the power to, if I lose a guy, we're gonna be fine. All right. And then with our third rounder, we go out and get Jonah Ellis, the edge out of Utah. I haven't watched any film on him yet. I got to start watching that, but he keeps falling to 74, and I'm gonna keep taking him. I haven't watched anything yet, so I could be 100% wrong. But yeah. Now with the fourth round pick, I wanted to get Tyke Smith out of Georgia, but he was taken. So I went out and got Jaden Hicks, the same position safety out of Washington State. Now getting to the spots where I have no idea who these guys are. Fifth round, Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State. And then with the sixth rounder, we get Dwight McGlothern out of Arkansas. But with that being said, what would be tomorrow? I'm recording this on Friday. I don't know what day is going up, but it will be Friday. Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl stuff at I think 1 on NFL Network. So who do you need to watch? I think that when it comes to quarterbacks, keep your eye on Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and Spencer Rattler. We know Bo Nix has had some bad throws in the Senior Bowl. That's all I've seen really. But yeah. So keep your eye on those quarterbacks. When it comes to receivers, go Ladd McConkey. He's been balling on the Senior Bowl. I know that for a fact. And Malachi Corley. I think these two guys are going to be big targets for the Falcons. Come draft time, because you're still looking for that wide receiver too. And now we go to the defense. I have us start looking at a lot of DBs: Kalen King, Tyke Smith, Jalen Simpson, DJ James, and Jaden Hicks. These are all guys so I think can plug in and be that nickel safety for the Falcons. Yeah, I think all those guys can plug in and they can plug in wherever you need them to plug in. Those are going to be your DBs that you're going to draft for the future. You will keep an eye on them. Defensive lineman, you go Chris Baswell, Tyler Davis, and Rook Ohoro. That's all you're getting from me. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry, Rook. But yeah, keep an eye on those guys. I mean, is not much more I can say. Keep an eye on them. Yeah, and then Lineberg, Tommy Eichenberg. These are definitely players I'm going to be watching. I think you should be keeping an eye on them too. Saturday afternoon for the Pro Bowl. And then that's all I got for that. And I want to kind of give you all a preview of the next video. So wasn't feeling too good over the past week. I had a video planned to go out this week. Wasn't feeling good, so I didn't actually end up releasing it. But should release next week. I'm bad on video timing. So dropping next week. I went through my Google Photos recently and I found footage that I was going to use for a vlog of Falcons Panthers. So scooped up that footage, threw it together. That's going to be the video for next week. And that's all I got. That's none of the clipboard. There's nothing on this clipboard anymore. That was easy. That concludes. Would this be episode 13? Would this be 13 episodes of the Atlanta Sports Podcast? Yep, episode 13 of the Sports Podcast. That's it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, turn on post notice, never miss another video. Smash those on the keyboard. Follow all the socials. That's where I always post. I'm always on Twitter, always on Instagram. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.